Um, the premise of the PhD, right? It's the idea that historically you had the electricity grid, right? So equilibrium for the electricity grid means that supply and demand are equal at every point in time and space. And the sort of health checks on that are the grid frequency, which should be at 50 hertz, and the voltages, which should be at the nominal voltages for each different part of the grid. Historically, you had the electricity market kind of on top of that or wrapped around it. And equilibrium in an energy market means something different to what it means for the electricity grid. So for the grid, you're saying that the supply and demand are equal, and in the market, under the theory of marginal pricing, you say that supply and demand at the equilibrium point, and it gives you the clearing price. That's the marginal pricing theory. So what I'm trying to make the point is to say that actually we're not at equilibrium in the market due to having constraints in the network, and due to having supply that's increasingly inelastic, and us actually having, so previously we assumed that demand was inelastic, but now we're actually able to get flexibility from demand through flexibility schemes, where we actually shift the consumption to balance with supply, and then we have batteries on top of that, which gives us some energy storage, which gives us a bit of a buffer. Previously we had inertia in the system, and we still have some inertia. So what I'm saying, right, the market is not at equilibrium. The system we want to try to keep at equilibrium, but the markers for that are not the equilibrium clearing price. The markers for that are the frequency and the voltage. So what I'm saying is, if you have a system, so in control theory, you have a system that has a target. So the target for the system is for it to be at equilibrium. We've just said what that means. Happy frequency, happy voltages. But the market, what we want to do is, so we know we're not at equilibrium in the market. So instead, can we use the price of energy as an actual input to help us to stay at equilibrium for the system? And that's what my automatic market maker does. So it looks at the things, it takes measurements of the inputs, measurements of the relevant signals, the voltages and the frequency, and other things that we can use to infer whether we're at equilibrium or not. So the forecasted supply, forecasted demand, and then it uses those things to infer whether we're at equilibrium, whether we're in an abundance situation, in a scarcity situation, or if we're in a balanced situation. If we're balanced, we're good. If we're scarce, we need to take some actions to fix the scarcity. So if there's a scarcity of energy, what that means is we need more energy, right, to try to get to equilibrium. So what we want to do in that case is we want to increase the sell price, the price that we're selling energy for, so that we restore equilibrium. If we're in the abundance situation, what we want to do is we want the buy price to drop for energy so that people actually consume the surplus. So what we actually have is we have a control theoretic loop that we're no longer trying to determine the energy price based on a theory of economics, which doesn't apply by its own assumptions. We're actually going to do something useful with the energy price instead. But we have this problem where we have costs in the system. So the costs in the system are the cost of building the network and the costs of running the generation system. So the generators have costs as fuel costs, non-fuel operating costs, and capital costs. So we don't want to include the non-fuel operating costs and capital costs, and actually we don't even need to worry about those costs too much, because what we actually want to do is we want to encourage investment in generation in the right places at the right times, or generation that can provide the right supply in the place and at the time when we need it. So what you actually want to do is you want to have a framework that differentiates between different generators, that looks at the value that they're providing to the system. So that's what I've done. I'm not going to talk about that now, but what it does is it looks at if you have two identical generators, one located in location A, one located in location B, the one, if location B is, if the one in location B is in an unconstrained network, part of the network, i.e. it can deliver its energy to where it's needed to go, then it will receive more revenue than the one that's located in location A. So it's specifically designed around the sort of Scotland corridor thing, where we have constrained generators in Scotland, which they're not useless, okay, but it's a megawatt hour provided by a generator in Scotland is less useful when the network is constrained than a generator located in an unconstrained part of the network. So that's a quick introduction.